Have you ever felt like that you're constantly making decisions, but you're not really moving forward? Like your business is running you instead of the other way around? I know I have. In fact, I was there just recently and really just felt kind of stuck and realized that I just needed a better strategy. So in this video, we're going to break it down for you. First of all, we're going to talk about what strategy is, and sometimes just as importantly is what it isn't. Then we're going to talk about why it is that we as leaders sometimes get stuck in the day-to-day operations and how hard it is to get out of that, and sometimes how it creates decision fatigue. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Last but not least, we're going to talk about maybe some real strategic approaches that can help you lead with confidence instead of just being that reactionary mode and trying to put out all the fires as they pop up. That can be really, really distracting, and it can get old after a while. I found that most executives don't have a strategy problem, they have a reaction problem. If you're stuck in the weeds and you're putting out fires all day long and you're just feeling exhausted from constant decision making, it's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because you don't have clear guiding strategy that will help you know what to do and what to focus on, and more importantly, what to ignore. I remember a leader that was doing some training for me several years ago. He said this one thing and it stuck in my mind. It has stuck in my mind ever since he said it. The clearer your vision, the easier it is to say no. And I have found that to be such the case in my life, that when I have a very clear vision, when I have a very clear strategy for where I want to go and why I'm going there and what I'm doing, it gets so much easier just to say no to the things that might distract me or the things that might get in my way. That is a powerful thing to learn, is to learn what to say no to, because you can't say yes to everything. In fact, some of you are probably in the position that you're in right now because you have said yes to too many things. I know a lot of you probably think that strategy is just having a really good plan. That's part of it, but that's not the full picture. So let's talk about first what strategy is not. So strategy is not some long document that sits in a drawer or perhaps gets put in a binder and gets put on a shelf like one of these behind me, and it never gets used. I have been there. I was part of that program before in a corporate job, and we did all this great work to put a strategy together and put it into a book and pass it out to everybody, and then it just sits on a shelf. Nobody references it. Nobody manages by it. And if anything's accomplished toward that end goal or using that strategy, it was almost accidental. It's also not just a set of goals that has no path or no way for you to accomplish them. We're not talking about goal setting here. There's a time and a place for that, and I have a lot of thoughts on that and how that works and how it doesn't work. But when we're talking about a strategy, it's not just a set of goals. It's got to be a lot more than that. And it's also not just a to-do list of tasks or a project plan or something that kind of keeps you busy, but it's not really moving you forward. I've fallen into that trap, and I've seen other people fall into it too, where it just seems like we're busy doing a lot of things, and maybe they're okay things, but they're not the things that are going to move us toward the goal. They may be comfortable for us to do, they may be something that we're accustomed to doing, or maybe even something we're really good at, and we default to those instead of doing the strategic things. Strategy is not just putting together a list of tasks and going off to execute them. So let's talk about what strategy is. So when we think about a strategy should be some sort of framework that's going to help you make better and faster decisions. This is one of the greatest things about having a good strategic plan, is it becomes the filter by which you make decisions as you operate your business or as you lead your organization. It becomes that kind of strategic filter to say, yes, we should be doing that, or yes, that is a task or that is a project that helps move us closer toward our ultimate goal because it's in the strategic plan. It also helps you say no to things that aren't strategic. And it really becomes a way to align the daily vision with the overall bigger vision for the organization. The best strategies that I've seen used in the past and that I've helped my clients use in development, they're really the ones that the overall company strategy goes all the way down to the lowest level of the organization. Everybody in the company has something that they're doing that ties to some departmental strategy, and the departmental strategy is tied to a business division, and the business division is tied to the overall company vision. That sort of alignment, it gives your people clarity, it gives your managers great clarity because they know exactly what they're supposed to be managing and how they're supposed to be managing those projects and those tasks, those people. And like I said, a good strategy becomes a filter. It's just really a filter for helping you focus on what really matters and what's really going to create progress for the company that's already been agreed on across your leadership team and across your management team. Without that strategy in place, you'll find yourself working really, really hard, but not necessarily smarter. And you can work really hard doing lots of things and burn yourself out and never achieve the strategic goals that you need to achieve. So now let's talk about why it is that we as leaders sometimes get stuck. We've all been there. I've been there multiple times, and I've started to recognize it. I can see it in myself sometimes when I'm getting to that place where I really feel stuck. One of the biggest reasons that I found that leaders get stuck is because they've gone too deep in the day-to-day operations. The daily things that have to get done, this is where the old saying comes in, you're working in the business, not on the business. We as leaders, there's got to be times we carve out in our schedule where we're working on the business, not just in it. And when leaders get too deep into the business and they're close to the front lines of making decisions and trying to direct the efforts and delegating tasks to people, when you get that far, that deep into it, it's really easy to get stuck because you lose sight of what the overall strategy is or what the overall goal is. I had this happen just recently, just in the last year or so. I had a client, brilliant executive. She has founded a great company, does great work, does award-winning work, and she came to me frustrated. She said, I'm just too deep in the weeds. That was a phrase she had used, it was a phrase that her team had used about her, and she recognized it. She said, I'm too deep into the day-to-day operations. I've got to get out of that. I've got to find a way to focus on the bigger picture. And she nailed it. She knew exactly, like, by being at that lower level of the organization, she was failing to see the big picture and to make the big picture connections that she needed to make for the company. And that's why she felt stuck. So over the course of 6 months or a year or so, we started putting the plans together, some for her personally and for her career, and then also plans for the company. By having those clear strategies in place, saying, okay, here's what the long-term vision is, here are the methods, here are the ways, here are the specific things that we're going to start to do that will start to move us in that direction. When that happened, everything started to change. Instead of her being buried in the day-to-day tasks, she found ways to get out of that and to start to delegate that and to train up other leaders who could take on that. When she did, it freed her up from those responsibilities to get back to building the business, growing the business, doing business development, having those big relationships that she needed in order to drive the business forward. It really just took her leadership and it took the entire company to a whole new level. What are some of the other reasons that leaders get stuck? Decision fatigue. This is really, really common, that sometimes it just feels like you're just making decisions all day long, especially if you're too deep in the weeds, you're making too many decisions, and it just gets really overwhelming after a while. In times of economic turmoil, or perhaps something's happening in the marketplace, or there's new technology or a new competitor that comes in, all of those things just ramp up the amount of decisions you have to make. And when that happens, it is real easy to start to get decision fatigue, and you can start to really feel stuck, not seeing or not being able to accomplish the bigger picture of things. Another one is relying on outdated success formulas. There's a good book that I'm reading right now, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Really, really good book. And for all of us who've kind of hit those plateaus, or we've reached a certain point in our leadership or our company growth, the thing that we often do is we try to go back and do something that was successful in the past. Now it just doesn't work for some reason, and we can feel stuck. We're doing what we thought we should do. We're doing what worked in the past, but it's not working now. And it's really easy to feel stuck in that situation. Find also that fear is a great factor that comes into play when leaders feel stuck. There's the fear of making the wrong move. There's the fear of getting the decision wrong. There's the fear of doing something that does irreparable damage to the company or to your position or to your team. Often that just kind of paralyzes us because we're trying to figure out which decision is going to be the right decision or the best decision, and the fear of making the wrong decision can actually hold us back. Sometimes you just need to make the decision, and if it's the wrong one, you adjust, you make some corrections, you learn from your failures, and you move on. All right, so if any of this really sounds familiar, I know it does to me. As I'm going through this list, I'm thinking, yep, been there and done that. Every one of these is very familiar to me. So the good news is you're not alone. There's a lot of other people who have gone through this, including myself. So as I'm talking today, I'm just thinking about how I would coach myself maybe 15 years ago when I was stuck in a former business. One thing is to think about who else you can bring along to help you. I know there's a new title out there in some of the larger businesses over 200, 300 million, $5 million. They have this position called the Chief Strategy Officer. And it really is a person who is kind of always looking at the big picture, always looking at the landscape, always trying to understand where the business should be going and what strategic moves can be made to grow the business. A lot of smaller companies can't afford that. And that's one of the roles that I often find myself playing for small businesses, is really kind of this fractional Chief Strategic Officer role. It's really just having a strategic eye in mind and bringing that into the conversation. It's really helpful, I've found a lot of times, to have somebody from the outside, even for my own business, being a small business and actually playing this role for my own company. Sometimes it's just good to have somebody in from the outside, just a different perspective or to see things in a different way. And so if you're trying to navigate these kinds of strategic challenges all alone or putting together a strategic plan, it can be overwhelming, especially if you've never done it, or perhaps if you've done it but not with a lot of success or it hasn't been really clear for you. What I do, and others do it as well, is to play this role of kind of a fractional officer in your company or a fractional strategist, just coming in from time to time, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a month, and just really coming alongside the executive team to really offer that strategic advice or strategic perspective. Think about it as a thought partner. It's a trusted partner who can kind of help you with understanding how to make decisions and the right decisions to make. Sometimes it's just clarity on what's going to move your business forward, or out of 4 options that you have, which one seems to be the clearest and the one that you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Sometimes, like I said, it's just an outside perspective. Sometimes you're just so close to it, you can't see it. I know that because I've experienced the same thing in my business. Sometimes I'm just too close to it. I need to have somebody else that can give me a perspective. That's what a fractional strategic officer can do for you. And the last one is just to have a structured approach to putting a strategy together. I know I have kind of a formula that I use. I know there are a lot of them out there. There's a lot of science around what works and doesn't work when it comes to putting together strategies. But sometimes you just need that structured approach. You just need somebody who says, okay, let's do this first. Okay, now let's look at this second. Okay, now let's look at all the variables here. Okay, let's start making some choices. Okay, let's evaluate those choices. Okay, let's put together the plan. And in my mind, I'm kind of always going through that whenever I'm facilitating a strategic discussion, facilitating a strategic workshop for a client. We do that sometimes in half-day increments. We sometimes do it as a full day, depending on what the business needs. And sometimes you just need somebody to say, okay, what do we do next? And just kind of walk you through that whole process of what it looks like to put together a strong strategic plan. So as I've gone through this today, if you're that overwhelmed leader and you just need some clarity, let's talk. Okay, so just get in contact with me, put something on my calendar, and we'll just see if there's a way we can help you, maybe in the moment, or maybe it's some sort of longer term work that we can do together. I do strategy sessions every so often. I leave some time in my schedule to be able to talk to people and to kind of help them understand their strategy. I have several strategy clients now, and they just engage me on a regular basis. Just say, come in, look at the business, help me make decisions. Let's review what has been done, what needs to be done, and then let's just put together the plan for the next quarter or for the next year. Just reach out to me. Hit the link down below or email me. I would love to help you get unstuck. I would love to help you get up out of the weeds and out of the day-to-day activity. Let's get out of the mode of putting out fires. Let's go focus on some of those big things that are going to move your business forward, and that will help you get unstuck.